Good afternoon, everyone. As promised, we're back again this week to continue talking about a book that was released a couple weeks ago, which has brought so much controversy, raised people's blood pressures, made some people happy, a lot of people happy, and a lot of people very upset. But today, we're trying to focus on another element of the book that is quite important and something that isn't talked about much in our community, which is mental health. Because that is important, it's crucial. There are lots of people in our community, and I'm going to put my hand up. We are all broken, but as Auntie would say, katasumwamwa. So we always want to pretend and, hide and beat about the bush about the things that are worrying us as a people so that we can learn, be knowledgeable, and figure out how we can elevate ourselves as a people. So I'm not here to bash anybody, not interested in that side of conversation because that has happened enough this week. But today, steering the conversation along the lines of mental health, the people that have been mentioned in the book, and otherwise, what has been the mental health of some of these people and what needs to happen as a people to have these very important conversations so that we can all become better people. So this is why we're here. And I'm so excited to have Amajo. I'm so excited to have Antia and our very own Ikwamwa. Sunday after Sunday, she's here. Welcome, everybody. I love you all. Mwah. So,
Love you
with
too.
the way it's all organized and arranged, I'm going to come to you, Amajo, first. I'm sure you've read the book and all of that. What has been your impressions as far as mental health is concerned reading the book? You're
You're
muted, so we
muted.
can't hear you.
Well, thank you. I think because mental health is now based on more talking, something that we have to talk about now. And because there's so much of awareness going on, it's good he brought this topic that should be based on mental health. It's all about listening to people and meeting them at that point of their need by paying attention and listening to them and knowing how they feel, how they were there, what was the causes of it, right? It has been awareness. I'm sure this year's there was actually a mental health conference in Toronto, and you'll be amazed how many people attended it. If you Google it, it was there. I was paying attention to it on my phone. I don't really do news, but to see how much of a people that were there and the things they said, it's all about talking, telling your stories. So, based on this book and based on the way people have handled it so far, we just have to listen to people more nowadays.
Mm,
It's all about you telling and me listening,
mm,
if you ask me.
mm. I'll come to you next, Ekwamwa. What has been your impression so far reading the book I Am Not Yvonne Nelson?
Um, what has been my the most important impression on me is in terms of mental health is how we deal with rejection.
Mm,
And most often, people who have gone through one way or one form of rejection, whether it's through a spouse rejecting them, or a parent rejecting them, or um, society isolating or rejecting them, most of the time people don't see that as a form of something that can lead to some sort of mental health.
mhm,
And then also the psychological implication that happens when women have to go through having to get rid of a child um, because of one circumstance or the other. There is some form of mental health that also affects women who go through such procedures, and those the effects are long term as well, and the trauma that also comes with it. So when it comes to mental health, there's so many indications, so many things that was brought up and then also even human trafficking that was highlighted. Most people who go through human trafficking um, also live with the trauma and then emotional and mental health that comes with going through being trafficked as well. So there's so many examples that is indicated in the book, and I'm glad we are having this topic. And then also really to echo what Amma said, that we are having the conversation, because when we talk about mental health, is the ability to allow people who have gone through these traumas and gone through this situation to be able to really express themselves, to be able to find listening ears, and to be also find a society who is willing to listen to the pains that they've gone through and to really say, how can we help? How can we save the next Yvonne Nelson?
Auntie, I come to you next.
Hello, everybody. This is what I know. I guess when I was growing up as a young child in Ghana, I realized that mental health was not something that we talked about a lot.
Yes.
When we say mental health, all we know is seeing men or women naked outside and we say they are mad. And that is it. I'll tell you something. When I think I live at North Carnation now, and we moved to that house when I was 12 years, just before I went to secondary school.
Yeah.
Before that, we lived in a house by Kaneshi Kingsway. And up the road, when you go up a few blocks, you see there's this house there. And one day we saw people gathered around and they made a comment. We were told that their mother had killed herself. And so, you know how hush everything was. And we all wondered what's going on. But as I grew up, now I think about it. What trauma was she going through that made her go that way? So there's a lot that goes on that we don't talk about. And what I see now, look at our environment, look on social media. This is what I know. When I was growing up, a child should be seen and not heard. The usual statement that I make. So you can't talk about your feelings. You can't talk about anything. When I came to Canada in my 20s, into my 30s, I was always angry and I didn't know why, and then when you get to a certain stage and you have this awareness, I started to answer those questions. I said, because they stifle you. You can't express yourself. Like here, if a little child is angry, or they throw something at their brother, their mom will put them on a timeout, but later on have a chat with the child, and the child will talk through it, and the child will acknowledge their feelings. We didn't get these opportunities. For me, all I know is be quiet. It's your sister, all this. So then people are getting away with bloody murder, excuse my language, right? And then you grow up with all these resentments. So till I came to the awareness that I needed to start working on myself, and then I started to find books, the simple, I call it psychobabble books, human personality, behavior, all those things, reading it little by little, and then making progress myself. So for me, how I see it is that you say I've given you a term, katasumuma, so I'm going to give you two more, okay? There's one that I call we are the walking wounded, because the harsh environment in which we grew up, nobody being given the chance to express themselves. When I'm saying it, I say it broadly, like just generally, but we know that there's some few exceptions. But overall, if you look at us as a community, our the way we handle issues, it's just it's not the best. We don't know, there's no mechanism for conflict resolution.
Yeah.
We don't know how to, if you speak against somebody, then against their opinion, you're against them. Oh, you don't like me. We're not able to separate and be objective. So all these things, can you imagine people holding on to these things because they are so afraid to express themselves? So what you see now, the blow-ups, the insults, it's a result of that. I went through my own process, right? More recently, I did a video and I said there's wounded and fragmented souls. That's the other, and who's putting us back together? You, the individual, have to be vested in doing that work. But where do you turn? It's like Sika said, she was watching that forum in Toronto. As she was saying that, I was thinking to myself, but Sika, we're in Canada, at least there's the awareness. Our people, go for counseling. Me more than I'm not mad, excuse me. I'm not mad. There's nothing wrong with me. And so we cover up till we blow up.
Thank you so much, Antia. And from all that you three have said, it's actually made, as you were talking, I was nodding my head because I was thinking about some of the things that I have seen on social media. It's very difficult to dissociate the things that have happened on the back of releasing the book without also bringing bits of those into this very conversation. Because what you've just said makes me understand some of the reactions that we've seen on social media.
Yes.
The first thing that I want to say is that over the last 2.5 weeks, or however long this book has been out, one of the things that has become very apparent to me, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it, is that people haven't realized in that chapter number 8, which is what everybody is focusing the whole conversation around, people haven't still picked that 1 or 2 sentences that the author of the book made, which is why certain people have been named and certain people haven't. What am I trying to say? A lot of people are focusing this whole conversation around a pregnancy, around somebody who had a romantic relationship with some person who is also a very popular person and a national figure, if you want to put it that way. And that has aggrieved a lot of people. But what is happening here is that neither of them have denied that they were intimate or they were together. 1. 2, neither of them have denied that as a result of their relationship, there was a pregnancy that was gotten rid of. But the bone of contention from the author is the aftermath of the pregnancy and the treatment that this person got, and therefore the trauma that the resultant of that action and reaction has caused to her. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, unfortunately, as Antia said, a lot of us have been taught that we can't express ourselves because we're children. And when you listen to this young lady, she never really had the opportunity to be able to express her true feelings about her whole life up until this point. And even if you're allowed to speak, you can't call out grown-ups. When your mom says something that is wrong, as a child in Ghana, you're not allowed to, call your mom out to say, hey, mom, you said this and what you said was wrong. Not to even talk about the men. That's the second thing. And the third thing is this whole thing around sexual abuse that has happened for generations in our African community. I used to think it was just among Africa as a continent. But having grown up to now hear that even in the Caribbean, this same thing has happened over there. There's so many people who are victims of, abuse from relatives, brothers, uncles, fathers, the list goes on. And all of these things are highlighted in this book. But unfortunately, we're not having these conversations. We fixated the whole conversation around something that we all know happened. Neither one of the two people involved have denied it, and we're up in arms again. But why did he have to say this person's name? Why did he say this person's name and not the other person? Amajo, I don't know whether you're ready to come in, but I just want to really hear what you have to say around that.
Sorry, Sika, do you mind so that I don't lose my train of thought? Something we just said. So I just want to read a paragraph from the book, okay? Page 89. It says, Sarkodie was a budding musician with the potential to become one of the biggest artists in Ghana and beyond. At the time, however, the future looked uncertain and his way through the maze of life still appeared too foggy to predict. Success was not guaranteed. He was still living with his mother and was not ready to carry a burden while he was being carried by his mother. The reason why I'm reading this is that all I keep hearing is that she was looking down on Sarkodie, or she said Sarkodie couldn't, whatever they were saying out there. But when I read the book and look at the first sentence, Sarkodie, she acknowledges that she could see the potential. Sarkodie was a budding musician with the potential to become one of the biggest artists in Ghana. Yeah. She did. But because we are so negative, the negative mindset, we didn't focus on this positive sentence. I
No.
was flawed.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Amma, the floor is yours.
Auntie, what should I say? We have people that have been covered with certain form of a barrier. To the point whereby if you find yourself in that cycle, nothing bad should be said about you. And and it will be hard to break it, because Ghanaians, or some of us, seems to be people, if you have an eye, or if the people have an eye on you that you are it, then to them you are untouchable. Nothing should be said about you. But I think it's about time that barriers are broken, because nobody is above anything. You get it? It's about time we see things differently, because until you reading that part alone, I kept typing and typing to people that the book did not say anything about this guy. The only thing here was his name mentioned. Yvonne did not direct the pregnancy issue to him and said, oh, that is why it was because of you. And by the end of the day, she made mention that she regretted it, and should she know. So why simply because of the name being mentioned, people were focused on it. So that was the barriers we have put certain types of people in, that they should be there and they are untouchable. So once you said anything about them, it being good or bad, no, we would rather come after you. And until these conversations I have and these barriers are broken, I'm sorry, we will continue to be where we are, because the fact still remains that all those that are talking, either most of them, just as you said, Delise said, do not really understand the English language properly, which I think this book should be read by a tree good teacher who can translate it into tree for people to understand, which in a way will help. It will be a way of breaking those barriers. Because as we are talking about mental health and we want to find solutions, and I think this should be one of them. If my tree is that solid, I'm telling you, Sister Sika, I would have been here whilst you are reading. I'm translating, maybe in the way it might help. I think that is what we have to be doing now. Because the people that were bashing Yvonne, I'm telling you, if I give them one page for them to read and tell me the meaning, it would have been a problem. So in this point, I would say, then again, understanding has been part of this thing. You see, we just jump into conclusion without knowing much about anything, and it is also affecting us.
That's true. That's true. Auntie, I'm going to come back to you, Ikuamwa, before I go to Antia, because I know Antia has a lot to say when she starts holding her neck and all that.
No. Actually, I'm waiting for your question.
I'm waiting for your question.
I'm not thinking anything.
Oh my God. One thing, as Amma said, accountability and calling people out.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest problems that we have.
Yes.
Because most people as upset, obviously, that she called him out or
That's
she
right.
mentioned his name.
Yes,
They would have preferred she would have told the story without his name
correct.
being mentioned.
Yes.
Right. And I always say I beg to differ, right? Because there are other great men who we know who women have mentioned their names, right? The things they've done to them, right? And I see this as an opportunity for us
Yes.
to have a public discourse
Yes.
on the effect of some of these behaviors, right? Demeaning behaviors, shaming women, all this, the constant dragging down of the Black woman, right? After she first has to first deal with her skin color, right? Then on top of that, she has to deal with all these cultural norms, right? Then after that, she has to deal with all these barriers, right? And one of the key things is tying this back into mental health is that I want to know the state of her mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
After going through, she tried multiple times to get rid of this baby. Then after finally getting rid of the baby, and then guess what? Oga abandons her at the hospital. Whether
Mm-hmm.
she makes it out or she doesn't make it out, right?
Yes.
How does that means that this is somebody who has been rejected by a
Correct.
father, she's
Yes.
been rejected by a mother, and
Mm-hmm.
then now she's been rejected by the man that sows the first seed in her. That
Yes.
this is much more deeper wound
Mm-hmm.
of a wound that will linger with you for many years to come, right?
Mm.
Studies have shown that at least about 48% of women who go through such process end up regretting it, and they also end up having psychological effect on them on the long term, right?
Correct. Yes.
Because of the implications and the things that might happen to some of these women,
Yeah.
right? That's why some women who have had one or two of these procedures, maybe they end up getting pregnant and then they will end up losing the baby. They will have
True.
multiple, they will not ever be able to carry a baby. Some
Yeah.
might lose their womb, right?
Yeah.
So she's bringing this public discourses, right? Yes, there are bro Joes that are all around who are also doing the same thing. But once we put a name to the process or name to the culture and the behavior, then we can come to the public square and start calling it out. Is this an appropriate behavior for young men? Right?
Mm.
Is this
Mm.
an acceptable behavior from people for our society to be indulging in?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't have this conversation and how we demean women,
Mm-hmm.
right, by calling her, saying all these things that so-called response, right, that is even much more degrading and tells you the kind of person this person is, and
Yeah.
really get to show that the respect for women,
Mm.
the respect for women, once again,
Mm.
it's not there.
Yeah.
We are not practicing mindfulness.
No.
No mindfulness. We are not practicing empathy,
Nope.
right? And all of these things are part of what affect someone's mental health. A victim should not be victim shamed.
Mm.
By victim shaming, you are creating an environment where people go into isolation, where
Mm.
their mental health it goes down the drain, right? And they start turning into multiple things. Right now, if we start looking at the numbers, especially with a lot of Black people moving in the diaspora, mental health among Black people is the highest, among Africans is the highest. They are not getting help. Why? Because they are afraid to be shamed.
Yeah.
They're afraid for someone to call them out. They're afraid for somebody to label them something that they think that they are not, right? Because we are not allowed to have a public discourse about the ills in our community, the ills in our homes, right? Because a child should not have to wonder from class 5 who her father is. The
Mm.
day that that teacher called her and I say, "Are you guys related?"
Mm.
and start putting that seed into her head. That
Mm-hmm.
was the day the man turned the road for her to make her be on that quest, to
Mm-hmm.
really feel that emptiness that is in her, right? And sometimes that emptiness, some people cannot, you can never fill it up. And we know from her book, right? And because of that, we call, daddy issues, right? These are things that are happening, abandonment, all of these things contribute to people, our mental health, how we feel about ourselves, how we express ourselves, and how we ourselves make decisions,
Mm.
right? Because the decisions that she has made in her life all have they are all tied into all the things that she has encountered
Dealt with. Yeah.
encountered and dealt with, right? And yet we are not allowed to talk about it, right?
Mm.
Because if we talk about it, you are labeled names that I don't even find it honorable to use such names. I
A
have two
human being.
girls. If you have girls and you are using such word, what kind of communication, what kind of respect are you, what kind of encouragement, or what are you trying to communicate to your young girl, right? That it's okay for the society to drag you down. It's okay for you to carry the mental, all the baggages, and you know what? You have to zip up, right? This is what they're trying to tell us. But I'm telling women listening to us, our mental health is very important, right?
Yes.
And it's important that we know how we handle ourselves, seeking help, writing. Writing is one of the best way, journaling, all of these things. And we see that somebody decided to put it in a memoir, right? So that's what I gotta say.
Antia, the floor is yours.
I just, for myself, right, when I've listened to all that has gone on since this book came out, I've questioned myself a lot. I've been making this joke that it's very difficult to be a Ghanaian woman in this time. I even told Amajo says she's moving to Angola and I'm moving to Mozambique. We need to find a different.
I'm gonna stay in Canada. I'm staying in Canada.
It is such a shame to be held in such disrespect. I mean, even if she's written something you don't agree with, it is her story. We have history, okay? History. Now it's her story. She's writing it. I always make the comment that we come from an environment where we don't allow people to be, to just be, to be themselves. Sika, I'm looking at you right now. You can't be Amajo. Amajo can't be me. I can't be Ekuamwa. We're all different.
That's
Together,
right.
we make a big piece of a lovely pie. So you take from here, you take from here, you take from here, and it's all well-rounded. But we don't accept. We think we are not clones. Everybody thinks you should think this way. This is how you should feel. So you put somebody, if it was your sister, excuse me, these men, you all came from a woman. You may have wives, you may have sisters. Is this the regard in which you hold them? It is so disrespectful. Look, I come from a family of 5 girls. And no disrespect to Ashanti men, my father was an Ashanti man. And I'm thinking to myself, he made sure that he put us all through school. And I'm like, what? You see, when you are growing up, you take certain things for granted. It got to a point, I forget whose program I was on, and I said, oh my goodness, my dad is gone, so I better say thank you to my mom, because they gave us the basics. No, it's commendable. How many people get that? Because of the way, even today, 2023, there's places, if you go and Google the statistics of how many girls are not in school, you'll be shocked. So for me, if you are going to tell me that I don't have a voice, I can't speak, I'm a second-class citizen, I'm a woman, all you expect of me is cooking, cleaning, and bedroom affairs, I'm sorry. What about the mind, the brain that God put in my head? It's gone dead because I'm married to a man?
Yes.
Is that like in 2023? We think this way. You see something? That is why our society is not making progress, because the level of our intellect is tied to the way, how fast we develop or advance. We are very low right now, and it's so sad to watch. I have to say it. It's very sad. It's bordering on the absurd and ridiculous. Like, hello? Oh no, it's a shameful day to be a Ghanaian woman. And those women who are out there not thinking through things and bashing your own. Even yesterday also, I heard a man say, isn't it you, the same women who use your gender? You are the same women who bash other women for not having kids. Have you heard a man saying to another man that, oh, you are this, you are this, you are that? And I'm like, he's right, there it is. And like I've said before, when conversations come up and it's female bashing, there's the Lone Ranger female sitting in there helping the patriarchy to further suppress us. So for me, it's an individual thing. Look, you may not agree with me, you may not like me. I'm not going to stop being who I am. My voice is my power, and I'm going to speak, because I said I've been in places where you can't be this, you can't be that. You're a woman, you are too intimidating, you intimidate men. So they want you to keep quiet. I got out and I'm free. So you have to find your voice, whatever it is, the little. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to be in front of a camera talking. If you are good at sewing, whatever you're doing, do it well. So you leave a mark, you make an impact, and you feel good about yourself. Are we just coming into life? Am I Joe coming to drift through?
No.
Not doing nothing, not finding out who we are? Hey, I'm sorry, Sika. I don't know. This has been a triggering week. But can you imagine? Look, when I read this book, I get triggered because I can relate to some of the emotions
Oh,
in there.
yes.
That
Yes.
is the purpose of the book.
Yes.
It's relatable. I feel it. Rejection, oh, don't get me started. If I tell you my story, you say, oh, is that her talking like that? Really? Did she go through that? We learn. Yes, Nanaraba, great tenacity and nerves of steel. Thank you. we got to, what do you call it? Leave us to be. Okay, leave us to be. Until men can get to the point where they respect women in this community, we're not going to go far. And that is why we have MPs in parliament who may not even be speaking because they are women. They keep quiet.
Yeah.
This is something that should even be talked about over there right now, but hey.
Three things that have stood out to me through this whole last 2 weeks. The first one, and I think that was one of the prime reasons, because when she went out there autographing her books and people were buying it, what she did keep on saying was she is happy that people are reading. But are people really reading? Because a lot of the things that I've seen said about this book in the last 3 weeks, all the people bashing her, some of them don't even have any idea about one sentence in the book. They haven't bought the book. They haven't bothered to read the book. They don't know what the book said. They're just following, like, excuse me to say, sheep. Because, one person with a big voice on social media says, Yvonne said this. And so everybody is following. Oh, yeah, it's true. She must have said that. Yeah, without reading you haven't read the book. How do you know what's in the book? That's the first thing. The second thing that I find absolutely shocking is that, for example, I'm sat here. I have my own story to tell. Right. And I know that when I started this platform and I was talking about my story around, not being able to have children. Oh my God, there were so many people. How dare you? Why did you do this? You're shaming your family. You want everybody to know that you can't have children. Why do you want people to empathize with you? You want people to feel sorry for you. And I was just surprised. It's my story. For crying out loud, it's me. It happened to me. If I want to talk about myself, why can't I talk about myself? And I'm seeing it happen to Yvonne. People are trying to write a story that happened to her for her, and I don't get it. I just don't understand that. Number 3, I am so surprised that in this whole conversation about this whole pregnancy termination, not termination, there was somebody, and she has a big voice. I know that she may not have read the book. She probably doesn't even know what's in the book, but that's not the point. The point is that this is a woman who started having children young. So for her to switch on her camera on social media and be telling other people that she, at 25, she had money. She could have afforded to keep the child. Nobody forced her not to terminate. Why did she terminate the child? And by the time she was 21, she already had 3 children of her own, blah, blah, blah. So, and she was older than the guy. And some people are trying to say something about her being a cougar. Like, it just goes on and on and on. But again, because you haven't read the book, you don't understand that the young lady said, because she herself didn't have a father and was being, thrown around from pillar to post. Today, Mr. X is your friend. Tomorrow, Felix is your dad. The next day, Kwame is your dad. The next day, Fifi is your dad. She did not want to put a child through the same thing. But how many people even understand the psychology behind where Yvonne was sat, or where her mind was at when she was making this all important life transformational decision about whether to keep it or not to keep it. And last week, I was saying that I know somebody very close that had the same encounter that Yvonne had in this whole termination thing. She was married. The termination wasn't even a decision that she had to make. The husband had made the decision for her and had laced her drink with something that caused the termination. And this person is wounded for life and still going through therapy and trying to, like make it make sense in her head. Because, like Yvonne, she was just dropped off in front of a hospital and the person drove off. The husband drove off. What if she had died? Would we even know this whole story about Yvonne today? Would
They
we
don't
be
want us to
talking
know the
about
story, Sita.
Ah,
They don't want to. They don't want us to know the story. And you know what? Sorry to interject, Sika,
no, go ahead.
but I just want to read out loud what are some of the side effects of women who have gone through this process:
Mm-hmm.
eating disorders, relationship problems, guilt, depression,
Mm-hmm.
the flashback of the
Mm.
procedure,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
sexual dysfunction,
Yes.
alcohol and drug abuse,
Thank you.
spiritual consequences,
Mm.
right? So, and all these are long-term effects.
Yes.
Okay. And this is
Yes.
research I was just doing, right? And there's studies out there that prove these things. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
So, and we shouldn't, and that's why I'm like, me, I I just witnessed, I remember I witnessed a situation where someone had lost a child.
Mm.
And the child was just like, I think was it like was not even barely 5 months. I went through trauma for a year.
Mm.
And it was not just me. It was just a coincidence I had to be at the hospital to
Mm.
witness it. I could not eat. I could not sleep for nights upon nights going through that. So I don't understand how some women in good faith, honestly, I honestly think that and that's why we need to have this conversation. When is it appropriate for a woman to tell her story?
Mm.
Whether she's struggling with barrenness,
Mm.
whether she's struggling with infertility, whether
Mm.
she's struggling with some sort of abuse, whether
Mm.
it's emotional, psychological, financial. Do
Mm.
we always want to wait till somebody takes away their precious life before we come back and say, oh, everybody will be posting, they are so nice, they are so this, oh, and we're talking yesterday. Or do we want to wait when they OD
Mm.
before we gather around?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
All this in Katasu Muamaso, right? Our young men who are
Mm.
struggling.
Mm.
Most of our young men, especially
Mm.
the ones born in diaspora, they are
Mm.
struggling with identity.
Mm.
They are having identity crisis because they don't fit in the African culture, they don't fit in the American or Caucasian or European culture. And then when they come home, they're not allowed to express themselves because guess what, you are born abroad, everything is there for you. So oh yeah, eat, be merry, and somehow all your problems and struggles that you have to struggle when you enter the classroom or when you go into the lecture hall, when you go into your lecture hall, and if you're not lucky, you might be the only black person in a class of 400 students. Somehow, you're supposed to find your identity or find yourself,
Mm.
right? Because
Mm.
somehow you are in the desperate. When you come home, mom and dad think you're fortunate to be born in Canada, fortunate
Mhm.
to be born in the UK.
Mm.
So therefore, you have no right to express yourself or tell them your struggles,
Mm.
right?
Very sad.
This is what we need to have these conversations
Mm.
because our young men are turning to drugs, our young women are turning to drugs, and some of the side effects on how they're dealing with these depressions that they're going through,
Yeah.
right? So I am expecting that people who are listening to us, right, who are of African descent or are Africans, or who are living in the diaspora or living even in Ghana or Nigeria, wherever you are, I'm expecting us to allow our girls, our young men to start having these conversations. It's important that we use her as a stepping stone to start the conversation going, because we have a lot of ills in our society, and unless we heal and come together, it's very, very problematic.
Amma, the floor is yours.
Yesterday I'm now wasting more time on TikTok. So I was on somebody's page and and this is what the person was saying. He was saying it without favor, unapologetically, busy saying that whether your father be in your life or not, your life is yours no matter what you choose. So why would you come back here and be saying that is not because there was no father in your life? You went about sleeping with every other woman and blaming somebody else. And God, I was just boiling. I was just boiling. And people were listening. So, and I love throwing stones. So I threw the stone out there. I was, so to you, fathers are not supposed to be in people's life. And you are a man. So it's obviously you are telling me you have impregnated how many girls out there and you don't want to be in their life. That's why you are here talking about this. The question here is, was your father in your life? Until you answer me that, it's obviously you don't know the meaning of a father, what it stands for, and what is it that they call a father. Because you as a man talking like this, I'm sorry. And just as I say, I always have to add the womb that gave birth to them at it. I'm sorry about this womb that you gave birth from. You see, we are so ignorant to the point whereby if we open our mouth, the things that comes out, we refuse to go back and check that, what did I say? You see, it's destroying we as people. I think it's that bad. Because if somebody is looking for his father and you think it's not necessary for you to look for your father, you think because to you, father is not important or significant in anybody's life. That is what he thinks. Because his submission and the way people were actually busy listening to him, it's as if he was making some major important points. At a point and you people are all quiet listening as if he's saying something good. And those are the people tend to listen to. And that makes it more heartbreaking. Because until you know what you are listening to, you just be following trashy. And it's that bad. When you said this boy came out and all she could do was to speak childishly. I was on CK show when I said his response was childish. Sika was just laughing. But I know no mature man with reasonable mind will come out and respond like this, knowing very well what I said about you was not a bad thing. You get it? I'm saying in this life, the way it is now, as people, if we did not listen to each other and learn how to offer sorry, then we've lost the boat. And especially if you are a public figure, their man will say public finger. And you couldn't set no good example for anybody to hear that, oh, even Sack, when Yvonne wrote that book, Sack listened to it and all he could say was, Yvonne, let's forget the past and move on. If I did not get back to you, I was young and I was wrong and I'm sorry. I'm sure those of us sitting here would have been clapping.
Standing ovation. You would have earned a standing ovation from me. Yes.
Because it's not necessarily even I'm sorry. It's all about saying, can you let go? Meaning you have listened to me. And it take a minute to just pour a little water into the fire and it's all gone and it's quenched and everywhere is all beautiful again.
I know.
But we don't get it. And it's it's mind blowing. It's so mind blowing. So I am pushing because mental health is all about we have to be there for each other. Listen, be attentive, give a listening ear, and let somebody say it. We just have to encourage people to write more stories. Because there is one story I heard about a mother who was busy sleeping with a daughter's husband and all. I was roasting and toasting. And I'm saying with all this, somebody wrote her own book, talk about her own story. And then what did we do? We have women with platform coming out to say, do you know what your mother also got through? Why wouldn't you consider your mother a little bit? And we still have mothers that are damaging their own children. So where do we stand? You see, where do we stand? What are we teaching? What are we telling the people? And all these women that are speaking, my pain is they are people that have platform and people are listening to them. I'm asking our young generation, what are they listening to? What kind of people are they looking up to? If what I heard is their response, and they are not even ashamed, and they are okay to say certain things must be kept under the table, certain things must be covered, and they are okay saying it. And I'm boiling in me. I'm like, at this point in age, men are proud saying that if you do your DNA, firstborns are meant 70% of the firstborns are not even their fathers. And we have the same women coming out to say certain things are not supposed to be said. The same thing that was done to them, they want it to be done to the generations coming. And I personally don't get it. But you see, some of us will be here. If Sika have a platform, Antia have a platform, some of you will be here and we will rant as we are ranting. Because until we allow people to voice out their stories, whilst we give them a listening ears, I'm repeating myself, we will continue to be where we are.
Antia.
Well, you know, there's a memo that I didn't get, or I don't remember getting as a Ghanaian, that I'm supposed to be a superhuman. I'm supposed to be a superwoman, no emotions, you know, the harsh environment, and I mean emotionally, our emotional intelligence is very, very low.
Yes.
We don't have empathy. We don't have compassion for people.
No.
So we think that because I went through something, it's okay for the next generation to be that way. Look, I remember growing up in my mother's generation, everything is a secret. They don't want to tell you certain things. My mother is an Akwapim from Edukrom, and then one part of her too is from Akwemu, Akosombo, that side there. And so Edukrom, Chirpong. I remember she and my late aunt, when they want to change the meter band, then they switch to that language. I never learned the language. All I know is until yeti, how are you? And I'll say me Barry. So this is the level of the secrecy that goes on. Me and my kids today, I tell them everything. Sometimes they say, Mom, you don't tell us anything. And I go, you know what? You are getting more than I ever got. And so the older generation, sometimes when my mom is talking to me, oh, you don't need to go tell your kids this. And then I say, what? Not in this time, not on my watch. What you see is what you get. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. We have to be open and stop the secrecy. Like the example, I gave an example on my platform yesterday. And I asked my daughters, I said, so if I'm in medical distress or some condition that I have, and then I keep it from you, how would you feel? When we go to the doctor's office, we are told to fill forms. Is there diabetic? Is there diabetes in your family? Has anybody had cancer? It's a medical, they need to know, because you never know when you'll have to go under the knife or something, and they need all this information to make certain important decisions. And yet you may hear a young person saying, oh, their parent was not well, but they don't know. The parent didn't tell them what was going on. Is that a secret? So you see how deep-rooted this thing is. And if we don't, as individuals, make the effort to say, I am breaking out of this, I'm breaking away from this cycle. It's interesting. There's something, just another dynamic that I'll throw in. There's something going on within my family, some situation. And I told my son, you watch, this is what is going to happen. And he's so flawed, he's so shocked. Whatever I told him has happened. She goes, and I said, yes, I knew, I could predict, because our older generation, they are a certain way and they don't want to change, and they are not allowing us to change. In 2023, I'm surprised to hear that a mother who has kept the identity of her child's father from her for 37, is it going on 38 years, and everybody is okay with coming to sing the respect song. Just because I'm telling the story does not mean that I do not respect my mother. It is about me as an individual. Call me selfish in the typical Ghanaian way. When you think of yourself, even for a second, you are selfish. No wonder we are where we are, because we don't do self-care, self-evaluation, self-assessment, self-everything. We don't know what it is. When you talk about it, oh, you're too wrapped up in yourself. You're thinking too much. Sit there. Thinking too much, yes, no progressive mindset is the core. That's what you said there. We don't want to grow and develop. So for me, all these things, who taught us about personal growth? In personal development, was it on the curriculum? Is there life skills? We don't know how to relate to each other. Is this bullying? The bullying is what is going on. We don't know how to manage ourselves. So for me, what I know right now is that as an individual, you need to take ownership of yourself.
Yes.
Because if you don't, you're going to lose your mind.
That's right.
You have to tell yourself what is working for me, what is not. Or maybe I'm feeling a certain way. Why am I feeling this way? You need to sit down and unravel it like an onion, peel it back. I think I put that in The Beauty of a Woman's Heart. Peel it back. What caused this? And we don't do that work. That's why we are here. We don't want to. Oh, what are you talking about? They'll brush it off. Oh, as for me, I'm tough. You see, it's in the foundation. These men, they were taught to be, what do you call it? Egoistic, macho, and then some of it is not their fault. Everything, oh, men don't cry. Hold it in. And they are holding it in. And when they release it, it's explosive. So some of these dynamics, I'm not saying culture is not important, but it's really mind-boggling to me that in the society, in the world right now, as we see it, people are making technological advances, soaring in life. Things are going on, and we are stuck here, splitting hairs about this, and people judging a woman. Oh, she's a shower, she's this, she's that. How dare you? How dare you? Who are you? Who gave you the right to sit in judgment on another human being? It's just awful. It's just awful.
Ekwamo, I know you have a thing or two to say before we continue here, because there's something else I wanted us to touch on too.
Andrea said it all, but one of the things I wanted to re-emphasize when she talked about self-care is also self-awareness. Okay? Self-awareness is one of the things that we struggle with, and I see, especially with we Ghanaians. I'm talking to Ghanaians, right? Because I'm fortunate to be really exposed to a lot of other Africans, mostly Nigerians, and I find that they don't struggle with self-awareness as much as we do.
Yeah.
Right? And that's also one of the reasons why Nigerians are one of the most successful immigrants compared to us. Right? Self-awareness is crucial and is key. Right? And unless you allow to be aware of yourself, what have I been doing and what am I doing wrong and what could be corrected? When you don't come to the place of correction or a place where you realize that what you've been doing is not working, that you have to retrace your steps and redo it differently, that is why you end up being stagnant, right? That is why we have a lot of people, they don't even know what they want in life, right? I always use people that I've encountered in Nigeria as an example. Like I said, I have some Nigerian friends that I have. They are the smartest of everything, right? They're great with their books, but guess what? For them, there are so much things that they think about in terms of how we should progress,
Mm.
right? So I have a friend who was a medical doctor. When she comes on vacation and she was studying medicine, the mom will send her to the person who bake pies. As she's on vacation, she has to learn how to bake pies because in case things does not go through, she has a backup plan. But unless you as a mother think progressively or as a father think progressively and is there for your child, you will not be able to transcend this wisdom to be able to
Mm.
say that as my daughter, maybe she will have a child one day and maybe she'll not be able to be out there doing surgery or be in the hospital, but she will need something to be making money,
Mm.
right? So when we're thinking about progressive mindset and
Mhm.
being able to think to be able to be in a place whereby women feel comfortable and our young men, yeah, I don't think that I think everybody should be able to speak as well,
Mm.
right? Our
Mhm.
young men also feel comfortable in a
Mhm.
way that they communicate that is not demeaning,
Mhm.
that we're not calling somebody a shower,
Mhm.
right? And I really like what the way Prince responded back, right?
Mhm.
That was I think one of the best response out there to somebody, to all these men who have come up with the idea that because you mention someone's name and the person is their big fan, so they should go come after you without thinking about the implications, right? How is a young lady who is going through what our sister is going through right now, how is she able to communicate if
Mm.
we don't have a progressive society, a
Mm.
society that's willing to evolve, a
Mm.
society that's willing to bring out the things out of the cupboards, right? Because sometimes the parents they keep so much secrets. When Auntie I was talking about the medical history, like me, if I go, because if you go and the medical history, you don't know any of your family medical history. But some of these Caucasians, this is how they used to prevent themselves from getting diabetes. They know
Mhm.
grandmother got diabetes, so maybe this is how I'm supposed to do my diet. But
Mhm.
everything is hush hush. You go and ask, how did somebody die? They don't want to talk about it, right? And then it's a tier of different conversations that's going on. Everybody is having different conversation, right? Meanwhile, some people could be having going through and doing what we call preventative medicine, but because it's been kept as a secret in the family, right? There's no preventative medication that's happening to the
Mhm.
person. There are some people like there's some people that in their family they will not talk about how fertility affects the women in their family. There are some family that if you are in or you have some women that have some disorders, they should be having their kids in their early 20s because of something that's genetically wrong with their family. But if these conversations are not happening, if we're not having this conversation, then they end all the toils, the depression, all these things, they compound, right? So the forum, the open space, so conversations to happen. Our parents, the secrecy, let's stop it. We're not helping anybody, right? Because when we talk about, when Antia talked about thinking about the self, one of the things that we have to think about is that because the developed world, the kids are taught to be individual people.
Mhm.
That is what drives innovation.
Exactly.
Because you are an individual person, you are thinking about what can I also do to make me stand out,
Mhm.
right? So because we are not taught that, that is why we struggle. That is why people are jealous because someone's light is shining over the other person, but you are yourself. They cannot be too Sika, right? They cannot be too Antia. They cannot be too Amma. There is only one. You are one
Mhm.
and only one original.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What you can do, I cannot do, right? So because we are not taught that individualistic identity or knowing that self-awareness, right? Because Yvonne was strong woman enough to sit down and write a book and self-publish. Some of these women who so-called believe in women empowerment,
Mm.
I remember one girl was popular. She was asked, "What did she think about the book?" You know what she said? "I also have my own story." I'm like,
Jealousy.
problem.
Mm,
You
mm,
also have your own story. It is a problem. What is your view? And I said to myself, she talks about a lot of things. She talks about doomsaw. She talks about, human trafficking. She talks about the plight of young women entering in the entertainment industry. You
mm,
could have just picked on one thing and speak
mm,
about in the book,
mm.
right? But instead of saying, and this person has millions of followers on social
Of
media,
course. Of course.
right? Has a prominent job on TV3 on one of the prominent channels. I have my own story, right? And and
Mhm,
and because self-awareness, you're
mhm,
not talking individualism,
mm.
right? The security, the hash. She's scared about how her boss are going to perceive of her, right? But one of the things I always tell people is that this is what Mordecai said to Esther. I
Mm.
said to Esther, if you keep silent, salvation for the Jews will come from another place.
Mhm.
But you and your whole family will perish. So when you decide that because of your own self interest, you're not going to create an environment where people who are struggling will be able to have a conversation where they're not judged, where you can be you be able to exhibit a mindfulness and be able to have a show empathy, then don't forget that you also have a next generation ahead of you, right? So there's always going to be another Yvonne Nelson, right? So make sure that you are creating an environment that is safe for women and even for boys also, and young men to also share their own experiences in order to bring about healing, especially mental healing.
Thank you so much. Three things that I wanted to do. As we're talking, the things just keep popping up in my head. The first one, very important as well, is that, in spite of all the things that came out of the book that people are focusing on, because there's this whole dialogue about how she, and the imagery that she gave her mom is so horrible. How can you say this about your mom? But those of us who have bothered to read the book can also say that she did say good things about her mom as well. The things that her mom got right, she did talk about that too. But how are you going to know if you haven't read the book? Number two, one of the things that actually struck me, I can't remember what chapter or page it was, and it's something that I've seen because I've experienced it myself. It's not to say that I'm knocking my parents, because a lot of the things that our parents gave us was what they were taught to do too. And one of those things is that private parts is a no-no. It was a no-no in my home. We found all kinds of words for all
Names.
kinds of things, even menstrual period. Even till today, my sisters and I call it Auntie Rose. That's what we call it.
That's my auntie's name.
So Auntie Rose, oh, my Auntie Rose is here. And my dad even knows what that is, right? Because that's what we called it, Auntie Rose, right? Oh, my Auntie Rose is worrying me. And sometimes when we're talking to our friends, they're like, who is Auntie Rose? And we all burst out laughing. And we ask them, what color is a rose? Red. So Auntie Rose. Oh, you guys are
Oh,
so silly. Yeah, Auntie Rose. That's what we used to call it. You're not allowed to say, the man's genital or the female genital. And in a lot of our African Ghanaian languages, it's so heavy a word to use. Like if I told you how to say the man's genital or the woman's genital in our language, ooh, if you said that anywhere, the eyes that you'll be given, if eyes could kill, you just drop and you'd be done. So we're not allowed to say those things, right? And so a lot of us growing up, you wake up one day and then Auntie Rose is here, and all I got told, not even by my mom, but the other women in my family, is I don't want to see you playing with boys again. I'm like, huh? These are my next door neighbors. We're outside. We're tumbling on top of each other. We're fighting for the ball. What do you mean don't play with boys again? What's going to happen? What changed overnight? Why can't I play with boys? But that's what a lot of us were told. You cannot play with boys anymore. And that's it. And a lot of us were left having to figure out what that actually meant, because our parents are always speaking in parables, right? that, oh, that don't play with boys. Oh, that one, right? And so Yvonne said in her book that she was well into her 20s, but she wasn't really given any proper sex education by her mom. Her mom only said to her, come here. And then the mom put their finger in there and tried to see whether her hymen was intact, and then told her, if this thing is ever broken, I'm going to put chili and all kinds of things. Like, what kind of trauma is that? Right? The lies. Why? Right? Why can't we just say the word? We can say head. We can say tummy. We can say backside. Why can't we say those things? Why? But in the Caucasian community, they say it. They go to the parent, my willy hurts or whatever. They have words, and the children know what it is, and they teach them in school too, right? But in our community, no says that in her home, I guess, the Kotoko players are on the field. See, that's another way that some other people also were talking about menstrual bleeding.
That was how I also said.
You see?
Kotoko are playing.
You see, right? So if we carry on like this, where are we going? We can't even say the word menses, period. Blood. Why? Because there's this kind of disgust, stroke, embarrassment / shame around something that is so natural that all girls go through. Why can't we talk about it? And people were actually surprised that we girls could have those conversations with my dad. That when my dad goes shopping and he comes back and there's sanitary towels in the box or whatever he's brought home, people found it so strange. Why can't your mom go and get this for you?
At least you guys were a lot, so at least they will be a bit easier on your dad. But me being the little girl with my dad, you can imagine how he was mocked. Because even as soon as he realized my boobies were coming, he came home with pads and toilet roll for me and all, and how he was busy. I can't bathe you again. How he was pushing me away. Don't get to my room, but do it this way. Like, I so respect, admire my dad to that point that anytime I think about him, it's something I just can't let go of that man. Because when I was in Montreal, I got depressed at one point, and I didn't know it was depression. Another way we should put it, mental health. I was depressed. I found myself in a corner where I shouldn't have. And at that time, I think my brother was busy, so happily married that he wouldn't even, he's not busy to listen to anything of me or something. So I found myself alone. And you see, if you live in Côte-Vectu in Montreal, before you get to the orange line to get to downtown, it's quite far. And you have to identify the train by the blue line, the orange line, and the red line. I'm telling you, I was living in Côte-Vectu, and from Côte-Vectu to where my school was quite far. I realized that I was in the train and I couldn't remember which line to change to and get to where I was going. So it was like the train was taking me back and forth. And before I will remember that I'm at the last stop, where am I? Then I'll say, okay, let me just stay back to where I go back. And then it will take me back. From 9 o'clock up to Jama 11:30. So when I finally got out, I think I got out at the wrong station and I got confused. All I could do was to cry. So I had my backpack on and I was just crying. And somebody just looked. Okay. She did not yell at me to say, hey, what is it? Why are you crying? Like, I think where I'm coming from, they would have done. What are you crying? What's your problem? The way they would do it. But he just held my hands and said, hey, come here. And then you are not fine. Just have a seat. One dépanneur man like that. A corner store in French is dépanneur. So because it's Montreal, my French is back. I'm sorry. So I sat there, and then she was, okay, now talk, mama. And his voice kind of sound like my dad. So all I could do was to just cry. So it's like I let it out. I wept. God, I wept. And he said nothing. He was just quiet, listening to me to do my
Emotional
thing.
intelligence.
I did it until I was done. And he was, yes, now you are fine. Where is your home? I said,
Amajo, sorry, let me cut in. Young Crawford, they will say, be quiet, kawanutum. You know, what is all this crying about?
What is your problem? You know, easy.
I brought this story of my app to say something I saw on TikTok. There is a lady who was busy, I think the child would be kind of 2 years or something. She said they said they were flipping something. Out of nowhere, she said she can flip. And they said if you win, you will get that. I don't know whether it's 500 or 200. The lady put her child to gamble for that thing. And she was fighting. And she did it. She got it wrong. So they were saying, you see, you got it wrong. Just take off your child. She said, no. She kept pushing that child. And I was like, I just remembered the day I got lost at the train going up and down. And how somebody just pulled me. So I was like, how I'm there to just pull this young woman out, sit her at the corner, give her water to drink, and wait until she let it out. Then I will ask, why do you want to give your child for just $5? But I'm telling you, my sisters, that the group that were there, nobody could dictate exactly what that girl was going through.
I'm not surprised.
All they were doing was, oh, foolish girl, why are you gambling your child for? That's all they could see in her. And I was so cold. So I did a video asking, please, I want to talk to that woman. If anybody at all would give me her number. So you see, this thing, it's huge in our society. It's huge. To break that barrier, as I'm talking about, it's a job. It will be a big work for us to do because we don't know. We don't read the scenario to give you that room to calm you a little. Just for you to have that side of you and say, okay, at least somebody was there. At least somebody just listen. I'm questioning that thing that I saw, and the crowd that could not even think about what is she even doing. No, I'm telling you, I don't know who mentioned empathy. All I know from Ghana much was sympathy. I study empathy here. Up to date, I take empathy class every day. On Auntie's program, one of the days I was telling Auntie, we don't know empathy. Ghanaians don't know empathy. I was, no, ma'am, we don't know. We know nothing about empathy. We don't have it in us. Because everything is all about buckle it up and go. Shut up and go. Zip up and go. And it has affected us a lot. And we shouldn't be surprised. Even though I am so hurt to hear certain things, we shouldn't be surprised. This is where we are. This is where we are. And it's that bad.
Antia.
So, who was talking? Oh, okay. Sister Kwa was talking about self-awareness. You know, not being self-aware. This is what I know in our community. We were raised with timidity. Oh, you know, the humility that leads to timidity. That's what we were raised with. There's a positive aspect of humility, but I don't think our people have understood that yet. Okay. And then we are not allowed to speak. Since this issue has been out, one of the standard lines that I see, hey, talking too much, we talk too much. So who determines what talking too much is? I have a friend at church, and we're talking today about an issue, some situation, and I said to myself, there's a time when you open up and you speak about things. For me, when I was in a work situation and something was coming up for me, I made sure I opened up about it to my supervisors, because they have to anticipate that, hey, maybe you may be off this day, or you are going here, or this or that is happening. And when you speak up, then people are able to help you. But this secrecy, keep quiet, don't tell anybody, it's in the family, you are disgracing the family. And meanwhile, you are doing and then you die. See? One of the things that we've been programmed, women, your lot in life is the marriage thing. So if you've gone in there, whatever is happening, never mind your mental health, your mother or your father doesn't care about that.
Yes.
You are married. So, and then the person dies. And then we, the same people, will come and write, oh, why didn't she get out? Oh, why didn't that? Right? So this business of the timidity, you have to encourage your children to speak up and to be themselves. Okay? And then this talking is too much. Nobody is going to stop me from talking, because, like I said, I've been in places, I've been suppressed in my family, I found my voice. I've been suppressed in marriage, I found my voice. I've been suppressed in where else? Church, everywhere. A woman's lot is suppression and oppression. And so when you are speaking, they say you are talking too much. But I say, you know what? I'm glad I'm speaking, because if I don't speak, when?
Yes.
I say, you see, your birth date, born such and such a date, dash. And on your final day is when you get the closing date.
That's right.
Well, the dash, what are you doing with it? I'm a good woman. As for me, I won't talk. Oh, they'll come and insult me. Oh, my husband did so. My sister, everything. Meanwhile, you don't agree with what is going on.
And then, you know, those of you, like you talking, they will say, "One will break a pie, one will
Imagine.
Yes, thank you. The humility that leads to timidity. You know, we are so timid. Look, when I came to Canada, I was so timid, like I was, the values that we had. And then I realized, hey, this is a different place. You need to speak up. You need to stand up. I was by myself. Who's going to come and do this or that for me? So I had to start speaking up. I had one director of mine, he said when I came to the department, I was very, very quiet. Then she went to Toastmasters. Now she won't shut up. I go, yeah, that's me. You have to know how to talk. Otherwise, people will take away your power. And talking does not mean coming to sit on platforms, insulting people, demeaning people. There's progressive, productive, we have to grow as a people. For me, you see, and then the respect thing. In our community, respect is just a one-way street from, the child to the adult, and that's it, period. I say I'm in a quandary because at my age, I have a parent who thinks that they should be telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And me right now, I have three children. They are adults, right? And I respect them. I have to listen to them. So I say, how do I stop this kind of stuff? Boundaries. I have my own life. I don't need to be, you are not always right because you are the elder. You need to, our elders have to learn a lesson. They need to also humble themselves and meet the young people, meet them halfway. Because like Sister Ekua was saying that there's young people who the parents think, oh, you are born abroad, so keep quiet and suck it up and all that. Start talking to your kids before it becomes a bigger problem. So we need to stop. You see, we built our society on some, I don't know, lies, and more lies. Some values don't hold. They don't hold. We need to revisit them, put them away, and stop what we are doing now, trying to muzzle people, pushing people into silence. Like, people are so afraid to speak. I can't speak. And yet we act so perfect, right? But you find out that in the Caribbean, this business of children being abused sexually by relatives, and it's hush. If you speak up, some mother is not talking to the daughter because the daughter went and ratted out her brother. Who's more important to you in the scheme of things? Get it? We need to shift our mindset. we are not growing as a people, and this is telling a story. It's like people think, oh, just a book she's written and there's a whole hoopla about it. But if we're learning environment, where's the Minister of Education and all those people in the higher institutions and all that, people who make these policies? Maybe I think they said I wasn't. Well, I think when Nkrumah was overthrown, I was a little child. So what do I know? But I understand in his time there was adult basic education or adult literacy, those kinds of things. Can't we go back to that? What is our literacy level at? Like our understanding, our comprehension? And then we sit back and complain, oh, as for Ghana, we're just this, we're just that. Yeah, are you matching up to the world stage?
Nope.
People are growing their people, countries are developing their people. Like, come on, we are behind. And we sit there proudly. You see a woman proudly talking down to another woman like that is the way of the world, or a man thinking that, oh, the women, keep them over there, don't bring them abroad. Is that how you think? Meanwhile, the little child is developing a drone to help in the war in Ukraine, and you are sitting there thinking of another way to oppress a woman. You are joking. It's just ridiculous. You know something? We need to take a hold of ourselves. Your mental health should become important to you. Some of us, people have conscripted us into their armies. We are following them. People, as Sister Ajo always says, some people can't, they always have to be directed by other people because they can't make decisions for themselves. You got to own your stuff right now, you yourself, because this is not something we can do on an elaborate scale. People don't want to learn. So you that you are ready to, please start your journey. Because sometimes you feel it. It starts with this gnawing feeling inside you. Something is missing. What is going on? What is going on? I came to that stage in my 30s. Okay. If you are sitting here and you are wasting time thinking you have time, like make the effort now. What is it that I want out of life? Why am I here? What will I tolerate? What won't I tolerate? Boundaries. Just because we come from the culture. Look, there's people sitting in the diaspora who make comments like, oh, we have to help the people back home. Oh, there are people, what can you do, this and that? Not at the risk of killing yourself. I don't have a house built back home. Call me useless. I have a house here so that my daughters could grow up in a proper place, so that they could finish school and be independent. I achieved that. I'm good. When I go home, I'm not going to sleep on the streets. That's the most important thing. So priorities, right? You have to order your priorities. Stop. Oh, who says you have to build a house? You can easily go buy when you want to. Or if it's just a visit you are going to, there's hotels, there's Airbnbs, whatever. Look, even if you do it in a positive and what do you call it? Something that is fruitful, like rent it out, do an Airbnb, something that is generating some income for you, not these I call them mausoleums that we build, funeral homes. At the end of the day, they are just going to pass you by there and go and throw you in a grave. And
that's if you're lucky.
You're lucky, but even if you're alive and you come visit, you don't even have a room in there. They've taken them all. So this poverty mindset, for me, I've said, you, the individual, you are in charge of your life. We need to have these conversations so that the young people especially learn, okay? Because let me remind you, I'm sure you heard this story. It happened in England. A young Ghanaian girl who she's been sent to, was it 3.5 or 4? I forget how many years. But then there was this situation that another girl was involved with her boyfriend, so she went and stabbed them, some weird thing.
Yes.
And I was looking, and I said to myself, so what happened? Did this person have somebody to speak into their lives? At this stage of your life, is it a man who's so important that you are willing to go this far? Is this what you grew up seeing? And so we say some of our women are so into, I have to have a man, I have to whatever, and all these decisions that we may be making, the kids are watching, so maybe they learn. I don't know her story. I'm just saying broadly that this is what is going on. So if you're a woman and you think that you're only on this earth to satisfy a man, or without a man you can't live, then something is off. Then again, you need to examine your, all these situations. A lot of women are dying inside slowly, going through things because of these dynamics, and they are refusing to be self-aware and deal with these issues. So,
Well, I just wanted to add about dying inside. One of the things we all have to know is that when we are experiencing depression or we're experiencing some sort of stress, that we are keeping stuff in, you're also building diseases in your body.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
cancer, diabetes,
Mhm.
stroke, hypertension, all of these secrecies and
Mhm.
shush are causing all of these issues in our bodies.
Mhm.
Okay, and then also when Nancy has talked about Kwame Nkrumah and all those things, some of the things that Yvonne talked about in her book is the deploring situation going on in our boarding school system,
Hmm.
Mhm.
right? All of these things are things that, as I'm going back to say, we can pick some of these issues and take them one by one, right?
Mhm.
And what really I want to address is that people should not be talking about women empowerment when they have nothing to show for the women empowerment.
Exactly. Because
Sorry.
Women empowerment is not about putting on makeup, having on nice wig, tucking, going to do surgery so that your butt is sticking from everywhere.
mm-hmm,
And women empowerment is not showing up in the marketplace
mm-hmm,
because it's your birthday to give
mm,
out gifts to the women.
mm-mm,
A woman who empowers is a woman who see the woes in her societies and say that I'm gonna do something about it, right? So if they want to know women who empower, they can go and study Esther. They can study Deborah, right? Women who are transgenerational in their thinking. Women
Mhm.
who are not thinking about how they can find favor with the men and the women or the people in power, but women
Mhm.
who
Thank
are
you.
willing to share, and women who are willing to put themselves to be sacrificed on the on the slaughter. And that's what Yvonne has done.
mm,
She knew that they were gonna come for her. All the knights were gonna come for her.
mm.
She put herself out there. And what we other women can do is we can continue the conversation,
Yes.
of having to deal with all of these woes that she mentions in the book,
Mhm.
right? So that we will
Mhm.
not have to see our children go through that, right?
Mhm.
We will not see the next generation having to deal with it. Because honestly, and Sika knows, I'm very passionate about young people and
Yes.
Mhm.
especially young Black people, right? And the reason why I'm so passionate about
Mhm.
it is the saddest thing that is to, when I hear, okay, so when I came to Toronto, when I came to Canada, I
Mhm.
was 15 years old,
Mhm.
and the building that I grew up in, there used to be a daycare in there.
Mhm.
So every morning, all of these kids, some of them are 2, 3 year old, 4 year old, their
Mhm.
parents will bring them, or you see them in the elevator. And that time, I also had a little sister. She was
Mhm.
2 at that time. So I'll be taking my little sister before I go to school in the morning. I was in high school. I'll take my little sister to daycare.
Mhm.
And, I'll see her play with her friends, picking them up. They'll make fun of each other. We play, right? And then now, many years later, sometimes I'll be like, oh, where is Kwesi? Oh, Kwesi is in jail. Where is Amma? Oh, Amma is, doing this. Amma is doing that. And for me, because I've been away from home for a very long time, and some of these kids, maybe the last time I saw them when they were 10 or 9 years old, the only memory I have of them is how happy they were, or how how I they brought me joy with either funny jokes that they made or something, like seeing them playing in the swing, all those things, right? So when I hear these negative things that has happened to them, I ask myself why.
And
I ask myself why, right? And that is why I'm very passionate, because we can all be great, right? But unless we have the tools and the ability, obviously, for us to have that communication, right? Because I asked myself, why couldn't that child spoke to their mom? Why couldn't they speak to their dad? Why couldn't they have an aunt or someone who genuinely care about them to have that conversation so that they wouldn't have gone to the path that they chose, right? So it's important, right, that we use Yvonne's experience as a stepping stone, because as Thea said, we all can relate. We all can relate. You know, from her going to Nigeria and seeing how the huge culture shock, you know, Sika, you and I have shared this with you multiple times, you know, how in Nigeria, if you don't have money, nobody respects you. In fact, if you don't have money, don't speak at all. Right? You can't even have a conversation. Right? And I remember when I went to Nigeria the first time, I think I was 23 years old, and I was like, hey, what is going on here? Right? If you have money, you automatically, if you came last, you automatically become first. And no one cares. Whether it's the bank, the gas station, the grocery store, no one cares who you are, or even at the airport, right? If you have money, you came in 5 minutes before the flight. If the flight was supposed to take it, the flight will wait for you because
Mhm.
you have money, right? But how do we have all these conversations, right? How do we share these experiences and how can we learn from them, right? And this is what I think I will say, right? And for me, obviously, you know, let's have the conversations in our community, right? When we are especially in the diaspora, because the kids in the diaspora, they cannot be taught something in school and they come home and you teach them something else,
Something different.
right? When they go to school, they teach them where about their parts, their body parts, right? And then they come home and you tell them something else. Come on, right? And then after you get upset that they're teaching them sexual health at school. Why? Because you're not doing your job. So
Mm.
they will tell them whatever they want to do, tell them at school. And then they get them more confused, right? So please, the hash hash yankasa, all those things, we need to stop, right? And if anybody, you are Gen Z or you are a millennial living in the diaspora and you are continuing to do all those things where you too you are continuing on that path, please change your ways. Change your ways.
As we wrap up this conversation, because I think I've said it so many times that this book is like a thesis, it's like a book that we're going to be using, you know, to have this conversation. I don't think it's over. There's so much about accountability and people owning up to what they've done. I think that's what I want us to move on to next as we continue to have these conversations. And I think with everything that's happened, this book is not going anywhere in a hurry. Actually, as we all said in the beginning, if the fella that's been mentioned that everybody is up in arms about, he had a golden opportunity to make something out of this whole conversation and he missed it completely. He's missed it completely. Actually, now more people actually even want to buy and read the book so that they can see exactly what he's miffed about. But the last thing that I wanted us to talk about today, as part of this conversation, which we've tried our best to push in the direction of mental health, but you cannot talk about it in isolation because it's in as part of a story, is that what do you think we as a people, and I'm coming to you, Amajo, first, what is it that we need to do as a people make mental health a conversation that becomes a part and parcel of our daily living, where it's not like when somebody says, oh, go and get therapy, everybody's already thinking that you're getting therapy because you've lost some marbles. We are all broke. That's just the fact of the matter. We've all been traumatized by something. I was told not to play with boys again because now I'm having anti-rose, right? That is a trauma. Like I've been playing with these people all this time.
If you touch them, you get pregnant. They said if
Exactly.
you allow them to touch
Them
you, you
like
get
overnight.
pregnant.
Can you imagine? Right? So we're all broken, we're all
Yeah.
traumatized. And I'm not saying this because I suddenly hate my mom. I love my mom to bits. She knows that. But some of the things were not right, and it must be said too. And it's not her fault because she was raised by other women who told her the same thing. She told me that when she was growing up, nobody told her about no period. Nobody really took the trouble to, she had to figure it out on her own. Her mom died early. So am I here blaming her that she told me what she thought was right? No. But was it the right thing? No. Would I have that conversation with my nieces today? No, I tell them as it is. And actually, I was so impressed that her sister, who then went on to have, you know, both boys and girls, and with her own experiences, which were not good at all, she was a nurse. And I remember because she had that conversation with me as a young adult later on in life in England. and she brought the body parts of both men and women to the dining table.
Mm-hmm.
Her children are half caste. They went red.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat there and she's like, okay, you sit here. Are you sexually active? I'm like, oh my God, this is a day of, what does this woman want to do? What kind of question is this? This is a private conversation. No, but she told us, she said, look, this is what happens if you do this way. Nobody should say anything about if you play with boys. This is not what it means. It means if you go behind closed doors and you do X, Y, and Z, this is what is going to happen. And she made it a point that any teenager that walked into her house got the conversation. As soon as a teenager walked in, I'm like, Auntie, so are you going to do your usual thing? And we all burst out laughing. And the children found it embarrassing. But today, they're thankful. And they're going to do the same for their children. How many homes are these kinds of conversations being had? So I come to you, Amajo. What can we do to make mental health and all these conversations that we've been taught we can't have because they're, abomination. We can't talk about them. How do we normalize them?
You know what? I will say just as I said before that, we have to listen to people. Our sister just said it. To add to that, we need an encouragement. You see, we have to find a way to encouraging people to share their stories, to be more opening up, to be honest with whatever it is that they are saying to us. In that case, we'll be supportive. We'll be supportive towards each other. That will be a greatest help. It will break the stigma. It will decrease the stigma of don't talk. And it will be a learning process for everybody. We will start healing. We will find the healing as we share, because a problem shared is half solved. We have those proverbs over and over, but it's like the proverbs are there and we are doing otherwise, Sister Sika. That's the way I feel it is. It's like we know the right thing, but we have chose the other way to do it. I'm saying lies has affected us because we have come to realize that you can have 3 children and 3 of them may not be yours. It was all a lie. Some people will say, I did it to cover you because you were not a man enough to have a child and I covered you up. But today you are saying this. It was all a lie. But we did it and it came on us. It's shocking us. We have to encourage each other. Talking against it and keep quiet is not going to help. We have to talk. We need to hear others. People have to open up more. There was once in Montreal, there was a little this Caribbean lady who was supposed to being kicked out. Like they were supposed to, his papers couldn't work, and they have to send her back. And she had a little girl at that time, and apparently the little girl was a stepfather who raped her child. So she also had it up to here. Just as I broke up on somebody's store, she couldn't take it anymore. She just came back from the lawyer's office because they have given her a letter that this so and so day you'll be going. So because she couldn't handle it, she started to cry and she started talking and how that baby became, how that baby's father is actually her mom's boyfriend who took advantage of her. When mom was not there, mom wasn't ready. Mom wasn't ready in support to fight for her. And it happened under the roof of mom, but mom was okay with it. My friend Yilda, I've spoke about Yilda on Auntie Ye's program over and over. Yilda was sanctioned. The Afghanistan people will not talk to her. Simply because Yilda was standing on herself that my stepfather was touching me. Yilda's mother is saying, you can't break my marriage. I had you when I was young. I wouldn't have even get a husband to marry. But after I get a husband, you the same child want to destroy my marriage by saying the man is touching you. Shut up. When Hilda came to Canada, Hilda stood on that to live on her own. Because of that, she was ostracized from her people. They would not talk to her. She would meet them in the mall and greet them, and they would not respond. That was how we saw. I have heard it in this country. But you see here, you are allowed to say it, and nobody will bash you. I have heard this. There is so many stories I've heard. Because, like I said, my mouth has no break. My no break up. They've already told me, and I've embraced it already. From all around the country, say it, and I'm listening. So you see, it's there, but people talk about it. It's not only Yvonne who is talking about her mom. Hilda stood up for herself. She spoke about how her mother is not ready to help her out, so she is out. That when that Caribbean girl that I mentioned started talking, it was like a cycle. Come see those who were talking. The same thing happened to me. The same thing happened to me. The same thing happened to me. It was like that. But you see, once they were talking and crying, there was healing. They were able to, somebody was here. We were hearing. We were even tearing with them. That is the awareness. You see, that is the solution of a mental health. We can't be saying, why would you disgrace your mother? Why are you talking? Why wouldn't you keep something to yourself? Some secrets are being kept. No, that is not the solution. It's about time we talk. Let's be more open. Let's encourage one another to be more open. And when they are open, let's listen instead of bashing them as we did to Yvonne or as we are doing to her. It's about time. More stories should come out. All of us will write our story. We all have a story to tell. We will all write it too. It's that time.
Antia.
Hello. So as you were talking about the last question, a word came into my mind, and I'll be using it. But I'm happy. Joy and Happy People has made a lot of comments about parenting, and that's where I was coming from. And my comment is that we need to change. I had to go look for the meaning of the word to make sure I'm using it properly, and I think I'm on the right track. We need to change that parochial way of looking at things. And parochial means having a limited or narrow outlook or scope. All these, this is how we are. This is how we do things. This is our culture. This is our values. Is it working?
No.
So can't we, and Joy and Happy People put a comment, parents have to learn and relearn. So for me, what I was going to say is that based on, Sister Kua talking about kids, parents have to change their outlook, because stop thinking about only you and your plans and what you have to do. At the end of the day, you are going to probably leave and go and retire and go sit back home. And these kids that didn't ask to be born are going to be left in this environment. How are you empowering them for the society they live in? So I'm saying that they are going through all these issues. You need to make time to check in with them. It's not Saturday, we're going to kill goat. There's this party, there's that, and then the kids are left to their own devices. Check in regularly. It can be daily, it can be weekly. How are you doing? And be willing to listen. Don't be shutting them up and saying, oh, you were born here. Even if you're a parent in Ghana, do the same. Check in with the kids. Stop shutting them up, And of course, we need to, talking about parochial, this harsh thing of, as for us, we are tough. As for us, we are this. We need to stop it. Acknowledge your own emotions. You see, I have gotten tired of having my emotions or feelings invalidated. As soon as you say something, it's not like that, I am the one feeling it. So for me, my story, the way I look at it is like, okay, if nobody is there for you, then who is? You alone and my God. So I've learned to honor myself, to tune into myself and say, this is how it's going to work for me. This is what I'm going to do. These are my boundaries. A lot of times we don't allow people to be. So when people meet you and you don't want to put up with certain things, she's stuck up, she's this, that is fine. If you want to get to know me and you come with an open mind, you'll find out who I am. Let's stop condemning and judging people. Allow people to do their thing. We need to heal ourselves. And it is okay if your child comes to you and says, this is happening at school, I'm not happy. Don't shut them up and say, "Oh, it's okay, go." It will go away. It's not going to go away. If
Yes.
if your child comes to you and say people are calling her names at school, they are calling her ugly, they are calling her this, they are calling her that, and you don't say anything as a parent, what are you saying to your daughter? That she's not of any import, she's not valuable.
Mm.
Anybody can treat her. So if we don't handle some of these things, you see how a boyfriend might later come along and treat her badly, and she'll think, "Oh, that's okay. When I said I was going through this, my mother or my father didn't do anything about it." So we need to, we have to stop like this archaic thing of a man should be this, a woman should be that. Women sitting there thinking that, "Oh, I'm married, so a man should look after me." Listen, I said the birthday dash your final day. What are you doing?
Mm.
A man could die. What will happen to you? It goes both ways. It's not like we're sitting here trying to bash males. No, even we've said that a lot of the stuff, it includes the men. They also have their story. If they would stop being
Right.
so tough and own up to their issues, I think that would be on the way to healing. There's so
Mm.
much pressure, there's all kinds of things going on, but it has to start from being honest with yourself. If you're not going to be honest with yourself, I'm sorry, that's it for you. You'll be silenced permanently, and then the final day will come and you'll be gone.
Mm.
A wasted life because you
Mm.
didn't take the chance to be better.
Mm. Ekwama.
I think the last word that I will put in is going back, you know, all of us, whether male or female, we all need to create a safe environment. That's why the white people created what they call the safe space,
Mm-hmm.
right? When anytime you hear the word safe space is to indicate that this is a place where you can come, talk, and share what your thoughts are and what you're going through without anybody judging you,
Mm.
right? And I think that the challenge really for us today is whether we're in the diaspora or, as Antea said, whether we are in Ghana, we need to create a safe space, right?
Mm.
We are ever evolving society, right? If we were not evolving as a society, then Egypt and Babylon will still be the most powerful nations on,
Mm.
right?
That's
So you
true.
always have to think about it, right? And I always say this to people. There was a time when China, they were so poor that they were eating sun,
Mm.
right? But now China has evolved in one of the
Yes.
most developed nations, and now they are lending money to people who used to be able to eat and belly food
Mm.
at that time where they were eating sand,
Mm.
right? Somebody changed a whole desert and built a whole city called Dubai that we
Mm-hmm.
enjoy in
Mm-hmm.
this last 2 decades,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you should think about the many things that are happening, right? Don't try to say modern woman, feminism, and
Oh,
now they
oh,
learn how to drink the bitter medicine. If we go and talk, they will come and judge us, right? They will say we are this, right? No, this is not about that. It's not about men against women. This
Mm.
is about us having a conversation, an honest conversation about some of the ills in our community, some of the things that have caused us to stay stagnant
Mm.
as a society, as an economy, as a nation, and as a continent, right?
Right. Yep.
Whilst everybody is just bypassing us, right? The things that are stunting our growth, so that when uranium, which is abundant in Africa, will not be taken and build
Mm.
electric cars while
Mm.
we still continue to live in poverty,
Mm.
we have environmental degradation, where we have, we are facing the side effects of global warming, but because we refuse to have that conversation, that chief that allowed that galamsey to happen, that we're no longer allowed to talk because he's a chief. We're
Mm.
not allowed to have that conversation because they're cutting the land and giving to people. They're
Mm.
polluting our water, and we're not allowed to say anything because you know what? You don't respect if you say something,
Mm-hmm.
right? That Akosombo Dam that has been built by Kwame Nkrumah, that up to today we don't have another alternative form of energy, right? That we're not allowed to talk about, because if we talk about it, we are being disrespectful,
Mm.
right? We want to create a safe space, right, where we can be able to have conversations that leads to innovation, that leads to progression, that leads to empowerment,
Mm.
right? of everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of their ethnicity, where we actually have dialogue. We
Mm.
have we have safe dialogue, right? Without hatred, without hypocrisy, right? And without any self-denial, right? So this is what I will end with, right? Let's create safe spaces,
Yes.
right, in our communities.
Yes.
Before I come round the table to give everybody their last word, I think one of the things that has struck me from this whole process is the genuine lack of education. When we talk about education, people think education is just being in a classroom and being taught blah, 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 whatever. But the sad truth is that Yvonne's story and it being published for all of us to read
Sorry.
just highlights the fact that, unfortunately, less than 20%, people say 40%, but actually, to me, it's seeming like it's 20%, if not even worse than that. Many people are coming out of so-called secondary school and they can't even spell their own names to save their lives. And so people are not reading. People are just taking other people's interpretation of something that has been put out there and they're all following it as if they don't have no brains. And it's sad. It's sad because, you're looking at children that are being born in Ghana, supposed to be going through education in Ghana. And you compare that to a child, until you look at your children, right? You all have children. Look at your children and what they're able to do here and compare that to a child. How many children in Ghana, in Africa, have access to tablets? Give birth to a child here. By the time they're 6 months, give them your phone. They know how to punch things, get to YouTube, and
Oh
watch.
yeah.
My 3-year-old grandson knows, he's probably more tech savvy than I am.
You see, so where are we going? Just think about it. When you look, you put two countries side by side, and there's one country where children of the same age, even older, can't read. We are not reading. Yvonne says we are reading, but are we reading? Because people are just following what other people are saying. Auntie, you could go on your page tomorrow and just put a word, and everybody will jump up in arms and just follow you without actually going back to look at the book. Is that really what Yvonne said? And it's sad. It really is sad, right? That you look at Ghana, where are we going? Like, we're just so lost. People are building things. Other people have prime ministers that are women doing big and mighty things. We have the previous German chancellor to, people like Condoleezza Rice and all kinds of people. Britain has had PM who was a woman or women. We actually had two. What are we doing? What are we doing? Where are we going? Do you think we're even at that place where we can have a conversation about having a woman as our president? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. But why? Because we still continue to look at women as, the only place that you're good enough for is kitchen, baby making machine, satisfying your man's every need. And that's about it. Kitchen, cooking, finished. And sadly, a lot of us are actually wearing it too and say, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's all that I'm good for.
I'm a good woman.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be all of that. It's really sad.
On TikTok again, sister.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject. On TikTok, there was a little girl. I don't know. I'll give her maybe 7 or 6. Who was busy on those pots, those struggling pots. My auntie would say the punishment fire pot. The old-fashioned pot where you have to put firewood in and struggle before. No, coal pot is the charcoal one. That one is
pot is even good.
I mean the mud, the one that use the mud.
One.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
You push the woods in and struggle.
Yeah, that's the muchia. Yeah,
the entire smoke will be coming away. And when I see it, I run, right? So my auntie normally say, she will use that to punish me. So I'll be calling it the punishment pot. There was a 7-year-old girl sitting behind this punishment spot, busy driving this banku, and was at the same time struggling, doing on that, blowing it up. And what did I see? A lot of people, somebody video this little girl with this struggle, and then put it on social media, and all that I hear from people was, yes, that's the marriage material, good girl.
It's the script, Amajo. She's being programmed.
And
That's
then
the
again,
script. The script for life.
I was, this girl, should she find herself from that situation, she will not even love to cook for anybody, because that is a struggle. So you see, if women can understand that, we don't have to be that way, simply because we don't have to suffer like that, or in the name of they are grooming us to be a good wife material for somebody else, then we'll be speaking a different language altogether. But here's the case, everybody think if you are being slave and if you are suffering, it's a way for you to become a good marriage material. This is what we will be. We at the same time, we don't want to train our boy child, but all we want to do is to tell the girl that, oh, you have to, everything is about the girl child. Oh, you have to be this, you have to be that, to be able to take care of your home. Well, the boy child is just waka pass going. Everything. Oh, you have to learn how to sweep, you have to learn how to cook, you have to learn how to clean, to take care of your home. The someday you get married. That is all they poop into your brain. But at the same time, if you get to your puberty, they will tell you, don't let a man touch you, you get pregnant. So you see,
double standards.
you see, Auntie, I'm only adding to what you said. You see the stigma here. We cannot get it even in our marriages, because first of all, I do not know how to play with a boy or a man. All that I know, I'm told, is I should learn how to clean and cook and go into a man home. And if I get to a man home, you want to tell me that is why I will be a good wife? Plus, I don't know how to play with a man. Plus, I don't know how to have a common interaction with a man, or in the name of I did my period, so I shouldn't play with a man. If I play with a man, I will be pregnant, and I was afraid running away from a man until maybe somebody raped me or touched me. And even with that, I can't talk, because they will say, what are you doing there? You are the cause. Yes. They will blame you in addition. So you see, women, we have done so much of a lot to ourselves. As we are supposed to rewrite our mistakes, we are still saying some secrets are better kept. Kept where? I'm asking, kept where? They are better kept where? You see, we all have to rethink and do good for ourselves. And we have to start from all of us. Because we're sitting here equally not better than anybody.
It's true.
You see, we just have to do that work that they refuse to teach us to do. Since we are trying to know better, that is what we all have to start talking. Your boy child is not the superior. Teach your boy child how to talk. There was about a month now, I have 3 boys in my house. My middle one is my bodyguard. He's the one that checks on me, how I'm doing, what I'm doing, and all that. I'll go to the grocery shop and he will call. So, where are you? Why are you not coming? I have to stop him. Hey, you can't talk to me like that. Just say, Mommy, I'm checking on you. It's not, where are you? Why are you not coming? Are we teaching our boys' children how to do better instead of being so hard on the girls? You have to do this. You are the one that will go and get married. This, you have to. Are we teaching our boys any better? And are we telling our girl child the truth? If somebody comes out to talk about their mother, learn how to talk about your mother. We all have to have, it's about time we all question our mothers. Let's call our mothers into order. Let's do the right thing. And I think it will help our generations to be better than us we are. I think that is what we have to do, Statika. If you ask me, that's my end.
Tia. You're muted, I think.
Myself. I say that everything has to start with you, the individual. The question is, are you willing?
Mm.
A lot of people we see running around, they have all these opinions. And meanwhile, probably it's just a social media effect. We don't know if they are crying or weeping or sad at home because they refuse to take responsibility and grow as people. So for society to change, you start bit by bit, bit by bit. Even the whole education system needs to be looked at, but that's another discussion.
Mm.
As a people, even, are we willing to change? We are so steeped in our values, our culture, and our faith, and this and that. But how are we using those to propel us forward? You see, as a society, like Ekua was making a comment about, if there was no change or no evolvement, then Babylon and Egypt would still be the greatest nations on earth. People are growing and you people are getting left behind. These behaviors that we are seeing, it's like caveman syndrome. You know, it's back in the dark ages. In 2023, a man is sitting there talking about who should be subservient and who should be this and who should be that. That is not where we want to go as a nation.
Mm.
You know, in a nation, your people are your human resources. They are valuable. You need to place value on them and in them. So how are you growing your people to be in the, be competitive? Look at us right now. We are talking. People are leaving Ghana. Ghanaians are all over the place. Okay, maybe you came outside for your education. Maybe you had your education back home, but the collective mindset, what is it? We come with it, right? Because we are still even in the diaspora and we are not changing.
Yes.
So you brought the Ghanaian out to Abrochi, but you can't take the Ghanaian out of them. And it's not to say we want you to become somebody else. You're still a Ghanaian, but are you progressive?
Mm.
Do you want to move ahead in life?
Mm.
And the next generation, somebody had put a comment, I think the gentleman from Belize, that we have the power to break generational cycles. This is how we do it. You talk to your kids. Don't make the mistakes that I have made.
Mm.
Okay? Like, I'm retired now, and I'll say to my kids, you better be making better decisions than I did. I'm now retired. So those conversations, we have to be honest and tell our kids the real truth, not these secrets. Some family members of mine, the older generations, have gone to their graves and we didn't know their secrets. And we are suffering some of the impacts of what they did. So for me, I think that we have to educate ourselves. Education is not only 10 years in school and all that. Every day you get up, have the mindset that today you're going to learn a lesson. What is it going to be? So it's important to grow as a person. And this is where I'll put a plug. If you want to grow, you want to own it and take accountability and responsibility for your own life journey, please go on Amazon, for that October, and get that book. As well, you can also get my Unapologetic Self, a guide to being real and living life on your own terms. Look, it's a book. Okay, and it's got ideas in it. If you want to learn, you can get it. Books are not, I buy a lot of books because I love reading, even though I don't get around to doing it. You'll spend $20 at chew gum or buy coffee or buy whatever, but to buy a book, it's too much for you. I'll tell you this, your mind is your greatest asset on this earth. You better develop it. So I will put the links in the chat and have a look, see. We need to do better. We have it. We can do it. Well, I think that those who want to make progress are being silenced and overshadowed by those who are unwilling to. And we need to fight that battle and get out. Thank you, Sika.
You're
It's
very
been a
welcome.
pleasure.
Antia, please put the links to your books in the chat, like
Okay.
you did last week.
Okay, I'll do.
Last but not the
Thank
least.
you.
The last but not the least, what I want to share with all of us is that we need to move away from mob thinking, right? Group thought. So what has happened, and this is really what this book has do, is re-emphasize the idea of mob thinking in our community, and the idea of group thinking, right? And moving into the individual ways of thinking. Let us all learn and unlearn, right? And the most important thing is let us open up to um, public discussions, right? The discourse and the discussions has to be made available, right? And this is going back to a comment I believe Joy and Happy People made, right? If we are training up our girls, right, and we're not training our boys, then they're going to marry men that are not much to them, right? And you know what? This is actually is what is happening. Like I went to a couple of graduations and during this graduation season, and you see all these girls, so all these black girls, Abba, when they're slaying and holding their degrees, some of them achieving such great things. Where are the black boys? I barely saw any. If there was like 20 black girls, maybe there was like one black boy. Compared to their Asian and Caucasian counterparts, they are almost proportional, right? And I went to two different graduations, right? So it is important that we are doing an equal amount of training and bringing up, and then we are making sure that we are not leaving, we are not leaving any stone unturned, right? Creating that safe space, right? Some of us going back to the secrecy and the burden of our children. Some parents, they don't even tell their kids the type of job that they do. Their children don't know what their careers are. Then after, how do your child know what kind of career path they should go? They don't know. They just know, oh, what does your dad do? He's a bank manager at Bank of Ghana. Well, how many bank managers are in the Bank of Ghana? Right? That is why, the white person created Take Your Kids to Work Day. Taking your child to work day. Whether you work in a factory, take them there. So when they go and they see the experience there, it will teach them that this is not where I want to be. Right? And this is all part of the conversations that we are talking about, the secrecy. Why are you keeping your workplace as a secret? Why are you not exposing your child? Right? When we're talking about the secrecy, it's easy for people to say, oh, she said, this is about mom, but this is deeper. So if you're a deeper thinker, you think about these things in a much more deeper context, right? Safe space, environment that creates a space for our children to really think about how they can be better than us, right?
Yeah, just as you said, my 12 years old son is struggling between being a doctor or being a lawyer, and she's like, I'm like, come on now, take it easy on yourself. I'm proud you have the idea of setting up that boundary to your mind that this is what you want to be in future, but then take it easy. And as I was talking, we were walking to the mall whilst we were talking about it. A neighbor heard us and was like, wow, how I wish my son is able to talk like that. It's good what he's saying. And I'm glad you are listening and just saying it's good and he should take it. There is certain conversation that our children actually want to have with that. But are we there listening? You see, it's a point. They are ready to share it. But are we there to listen? So you see, are we there? Are we really there to listen? Thank you all, ladies.
Thank you so much. Kwamwa, were you done?
I'm done. I just want to share with you guys that I'm having this, as we're talking about the kids and the things we want them to do in the future. I'm having this high tea event really as part of my solution to some of the things that we are going through in our community. So if you want to support me and help promote STEM education, science, engineering, technology, and mathematics in our communities, you can join us July 22nd. We're having a high tea event in Calgary. So if you live in Calgary and you're listening to us, or if you're going to be in town in Calgary, you can purchase the tickets. I'm going to just drop it in the chat so that you can purchase the ticket, or you can even donate money towards the event. Okay. And thank you all. Honestly, you ladies are really, really awesome. And please don't forget to buy Auntie's book. Own it. I started reading it and I'm not done. You know what? my sister showed me this app that apparently when you get it, because I got the electronic version on Amazon, right? So she showed me this app. So I'm gonna get this app so it will read it to you, because that's the fastest way now. I'm able to read books now, just
Oh,
listen
okay.
to the audio
Okay.
while I'm driving to work and stuff. Yeah, so that's on my to-do list. Yes, but we all should really try
Thank
and
you.
please let's support Auntie Ya. Buy her
Thank you.
on it.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for you. Are you going to share the link for if we want to donate to your
Yes, so
program?
the link for the ticket is also the link to donate. So you can either donate
Oh,
or
okay.
buy a ticket. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's
So
nothing
please
that
share
is
it in the chat so we
I'll
can.
share it in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, I gotta go.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Now,
Thank you.
next week, if whoever's available, we're gonna continue with this conversation really and talk about accountability, because I think it's one of the big things that has caused all this, upset, basically. That when people do things and they are not right, that we have the right to call them out. Calling somebody out doesn't mean that you hate them, doesn't mean that
Yes.
they're not good people. Everybody has a good side and a bad side. We all make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you have to own them. Take accountability for what you've done, and where there needs to be reformation, you make those changes. Plain and simple. But are we willing to have those conversations? All of these things are in the book. If you haven't bought Yvonne Nelson's book and you think that you've earned the right to be able to make comments, you're making comments blindly without having a holistic view about the whole story of this young lady. So I entreat everybody who wants to really understand what's going on here to get that book and read it, because we can all relate to it, as Auntie Ya said. It's not a book that is so hard to read. It's so easy to read, actually. And you can get so lost in it that you don't even want to do anything else. Read the book, and then you have a fair and a better balance about what's been discussed there. You can relate to a lot of the stories that she tells, and you have your own view. Form your own view about what has been said, rather than just following people around and just saying what everybody else is saying like a parrot. So thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Let's have this conversation and continue to have it. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and happy Canada weekend to everybody.
You too.
God bless you.
God
Thank you.
bless you too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.